just ran that.
Okay. So thank you for popping down on your what's on top.
Cool.
Do you want to just share what's on top for you?
Yeah. Apart from those two things and the fact that this week's going to be nuts. So my little book is my best friend at the moment to keep my head, decluttered. That's the other thing that's on top at the moment, I think. I hate to have a bit of a think about maybe in terms of my leadership where I really need to, what I need to work on for myself. And those were the two things that really cropped up. The first one, that I'm very aware that it's a bad habit I have, that sometimes when someone else is sharing, I'm too quick to jump in with my own personal story that relates to what they're saying, and I know that that's not the best way to listen to someone, and it's a habit that I probably need to break myself. And that's probably for myself as one of my leadership skills. And the other thing that I wanted to think about was that there are just little things within the pod that I'm aware that sometimes my expectation of how the pod should operate is different to my other to the others in the group, and I want to develop that without ruining the really positive vibe that we have in the pod, and without it becoming me dictating. It's like, how can I help them to grow rather than me dictate, well, this is how I'd like things to change. And so I've already thought about the things that I can do to promote that as well. But I guess those are just the things, probably more just vocalising that those are my goals between now and the next time we meet as well, rather than being things that I need too much advice on. It's just more that something to talk through and sort out in my own head, that I'm on the right track with where I want to go next with it too.
So I'd like to explore the issue of the active listening with you, that you're quick to jump in. Can you explore that a little bit more?
It's something that I know that I do, that quite often, someone will come up and say, how was your weekend? Or, I'll talk to them, how was their weekend? And they'll start talking about something related to themselves, and then I'll go, oh yeah, and I did this as well, and I'm thinking, afterwards I'll stop and think, I should have just kept my mouth closed and just stopped and listened to the other person. And it's a bad habit that I have, that I know that it's not intentional. I know that I just sort of can't help myself sometimes. I have this need to jump in. So it's more that I need to stop and become a little bit more reflective and stop and let others have their turn to speak, fully, rather than me jumping in and being too quick to, put my own 2 cents worth in.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is this to discuss for you?
It's only a 5 or a 6. It's not a concern.
Yeah.
It's something I need to work on. Yeah. That I think will help me become a better leader.
Yeah.
So rather than it being something that's really bothering me, it's more that it's a skill I need to improve.
Something you'd like to improve. So where are you at with your thinking around this topic? How much thinking have you put into it, or have you just noticed it happening? Or
I've done lots of thinking about it on and off, especially when sometimes I'm aware that I've done it, and afterwards I'm going, oh gosh, I should have not done that. But it's not something to the point that I've actually thought, right, I need to specifically work on this. Yeah. So my next step now is that I do need to, and actually be something I really, work on as a goal to do better, rather than something I just kind of think about. Yeah.
Yep. So what are some things that you think you could do yourself to improve your active listening?
I think probably the first thing is it needs to be more at the forefront of my mind when I'm speaking with others, because it's something that I just so tend to think afterwards, oh, I shouldn't have done that, rather than going into a conversation thinking, I need to be mindful of letting others speak fully and not jump in. And sometimes it's tricky because, I notice it a lot in our pod meetings, where sometimes I want the others to have their chance to share, and then it links to the second of my 2 issues, is that sometimes I'll give them a chance to share, and then I get the feeling it's not on the track that I kind of wanted it to head. And so then you sort of feel like you need to have some input to get it back on the direction you wanted to go. Let's say we're talking about how we're going to run our reading program or a maths program or anything like that. And it might be that the others are coming up with some ideas and I'm thinking in my head, yeah, but that's not actually the best for the kids. And, so then it's like, well, I want to turn it around into where I'd like to head it. And then I guess that's maybe what I need to, rather than give my opinion, ask better questions. So the next part for me is that, I need to stop and go, okay, what questions can I ask? Because that's probably something I don't do enough of either. I just stop and go, nah, that's not I don't sort of stop it dead in its tracks. I just did go, oh, well, maybe we could look at doing this instead. But then that comes across as, ultimately, it's me dictating, I don't quite agree, this is what we should do. But maybe I need to go back on that, ask the questions, strategy first, and see if that works better.
Yeah. So you've identified some of the skills already that you think you need to improve on, which is your questioning. How can I help you to improve those?
I think probably what you need to do next time we meet is say, right, how's that going? That's probably, I need someone to keep tabs on me and just say, okay, so how's that going? Are you actively working on it? Is that strategy working? Yeah. And I mean, I'm probably aware enough of the things I need to do to work on it. It's more the fact that just having someone keeping tabs on me will help me be more active in making sure it's a goal that I'm actively working on.
Is there any other way that you could do that as well? Could you have another support network around?
And I can talk to my pod about it too.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, they are that's really another good point. It's something that I'm trying to work on, so I could say to my pod, right, I need some feedback from you. Or remind me if you think that I'm slipping up.
I've got that. What types of feedback do you think you're going to need?
Well, that probably will be it from my team. Is how does it make them feel like they're able to contribute more without being shut down? That'll be probably a big indicator for them. It's how they're feeling about the value of their contributions in the pod. That it doesn't feel like I'm shutting them down if something's if I don't agree, appear not to agree with something. Yeah, and then that's part of my mindset is I need to let go that whole I know all the answers, but I'm aware that I don't. But
it's hard as a new leader, isn't it?
It is, because part of me also, being an experienced teacher, sometimes can see that maybe the direction they want to go isn't necessarily going to raise the bar for the children. And I mean, but then again, I'm sort of assuming that it won't, and that's not always the right way to go. But yeah, because you just ultimately you want the best for the kids. Yeah, so.
And so asking those right questions to get them thinking about what it is that they want to implement. Yeah. And why, and justifying it is going to be the right way to get them to also raise their expectations.
I mean, yeah, a good example is when we were discussing our maths program, because that's the one I really need to work on, because Nikki and Heather, that's their PLC focus. And so I've sort of said that really they should be taking the lead with the decisions in the maths program. But then there have been times that they've wanted to do things that I don't agree with because I don't actually think it's best for the children. Like where they've wanted to spend half the time just doing knowledge, working on groups just on the knowledge aspect of maths, and the other half go to a strategy workshop. And my thoughts there was, well, actually the hotspot should be your knowledge focus and the rest of the lesson should be based on strategy and for all of the children. And that yes, if there's other things in their knowledge they need to improve, that should become part of the independent work. Not necessarily go to a whole lesson to work on skip counting.
So what would be a good question you could ask around that? To stop you saying, I don't think, what's a question that you could use in order for them to come to that realisation?
Maybe I could ask them if they... is it going to help all of our children become better at the strategy component of their maths understanding? If they're not doing it, if they miss out on working on strategy for 2 weeks, and they only go to knowledge, knowledge workshops for 2 whole weeks, is their strategy going to get better at a faster rate than if they were doing it all the time and the knowledge component was integrated into the lesson or into the independent work. That's really, asking the questions the really hard part. That is the
hard part.
Yeah, it's asking
to get
the right questions.
thinking and to ask the right question.
Yes.
Because that'll take you wanting to jump in and get them thinking as a team about what, and that will raise your second issue of expectations and asking the right questions. What's the thinking behind this? Why, even that question. Yeah. Can you explain why you want to do it that way? Can we explore that a little bit more? What's your thinking in behind that? So really getting them to have to justify and think about why they're doing what they're doing.
So I'm really going to have to work on my questioning skills as well.
Which is what you want to work on in your, in your active listening.
Yes, and maybe that's another strategy that will stop me jumping in if I'm more focusing on asking questions.
And thinking about how can I get these people to think more deeply about what it is that they're doing so that it gets me on the track that I need them to go on.
I guess that gives me time to explore it for myself as well.
Yes.
And think it through.
Obviously, there are going to be times you can't explore that all the time.
No.
You can't spend your whole life asking questions.
No.
Because you'll never get anywhere.
No.
Sometimes, you're going to go round and round in circles and you're just going to have to say. But I think definitely because it's their PLC, I think you should definitely be asking questions of them because those are the sorts of questions that they should be being asked within their PLC.
Yeah.
And so if they're not being asked those questions, then they're not thinking it through deeply enough.
Yeah, that's a really valid point.
So your actions for next time. So for your actions from here, what strategies are you going to try straight away with your active listening?
At my pod meeting, I'm going to talk to my team and tell them this is what I'm working on. And my second thing is I need to start thinking about working straight away on asking more questions and thinking about the right questions.
Yes, more thinking questions.
Yeah, the right question. That's going to take some work on my part too. Is actually getting the right questions without it sounding too much like directed leading.
And when we meet again, you'll have talked to your team and they'll have given you some sort of feedback. When do we meet again? Not to week 6. So you'll have met with your team and they'll give you some feedback. You'll start thinking about the types of questions that you're going to ask them. And that's probably enough couple of things to start working on.
Yep.
And just being self-aware of you jumping in.
And I could incorporate that into my personal readings too.
Yes.